All right, everybody, welcome to your Unbook Show on this, what is it, Tuesday, 1 p.m. I don't know what's going on. My um, last night video kept coming on and off, and it wasn't the internet. I think it might have been Chrome or the software I use, which is Restream, which it just failed me. And then today the sound is not working. Volume is very low. I mean, this is the best I can do because I'm using a crappy mic. Yes, I'm using a crappy mic because my mic setup, my UBS board with my preamp and my super duper microphone, all of those are not are now working. So somehow the board is not being picked up by the computer. I tried a number of different UBS inputs, but so far it just isn't picking up. So anyway, sorry about all of this. It's good, I guess. I'm leaving town. I'll have to figure out. Uh, Let's see, volume is too low. I can increase the volume. Wait. How about that? Is that better volume? I assume that'll be better volume. All right. I doubt it's a computer update. My computer's updated. For some reason, the computer just this morning stopped hearing the stop thing. So, but I will reboot today. I'll try to fix it. I'll try to get it going. Anyway, let's get on with the show because the reality is I don't have a lot of time. I've got a plane to catch, and I do want to cover today. I do want to do a show today, given that I again apologize for yesterday, but I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I decided instead of rebooting everything and restarting and starting the show half an hour late and everything, if it worked at all, I just canceled yesterday's show. So sound is tinny. Nothing I can do about that. It's a shitty mic. But we will not. We will fix the system. We will fix the system. I promise. But just you're gonna have to give me a little bit of time to do that. Okay, let's jump in. All right. The big story, I think, constantly, big story, evolving story, a story that is been in the headlines now for a couple of months, and that is artificial intelligence, AI, and put aside whether it should be called artificial intelligence or not. That's what it's called, AI. And there really seems to be two schools in terms of their approach to AI. The one school is that AI is going to bring an end to the world, and we're all going to die. This is the catastrophizing that happens all the time, and I'm sure it's you can see it happening now. AI is going to destroy all the jobs. AI is going to become conscious. AI is going to focus all our knowledge on a few experts, and it's inherently authoritarian. The number of horror stories, it's going to come alive and destroy the human race. That's the James Cameron Terminator movie scenario. AI is now a focal point for Armageddon stories, right? So we already have the Armageddon of climate change. We have the Armageddon of, I don't know, nuclear war around the corner. We have the Armageddon of population bomb. We'll get to that in a minute. We have Armageddons after Armageddons after Armageddons. AI is the latest version of that. I don't need money for a new mic. The new mic, the mic is here. It's the old mic. I just need to figure out why my computer is not picking up my old mic anymore. What the hell is going on? So I'm using a little phone mic for this, which should never be used for a podcast. So, but it is what it is. AI is, as I said, AI is perceived to be Armageddon, destructive, horrific, and yet There is an alternative story to tell, and I think an alternative story that's much closer to the truth, although this alternative story might be a little bit too optimistic, right? Optimistic. And here I'm referring to a story coming out of Goldman Sachs that have done a kind of economic analysis of the potential for AI as we move here into the future. And I think this is exciting and I think super positive, and I thought I would share you. So I'm just going to read a paragraph from the report that was issued by Goldman Sachs. The report is titled, quote, "The Potential Large Effects of Artificial Intelligence in Economic Growth." And this is one paragraph. It's a long paragraph, one paragraph from the report, which I think is super encouraging, uplifting. It's good that some people are still doing positive stuff. And so to quote, "The recent emergence of generative artificial intelligence, AI, raises whether we are on the brink of a rapid acceleration in task automation that will drive labor cost saving and raise productivity. Despite significant uncertainty around the potential of generative AI, its ability to generate content that is indistinguishable from human-created output and to break down communication barriers between humans and machines reflects a major advancement with potentially large macroeconomic effects. The combination of significant labor cost saving, new job creation, and a productivity boost for non-displaced workers raises the possibility of a labor productivity boom like those that followed the emergence of earlier general-purpose technologies like electric motor and personal computer." So I agree completely with Goldman Sachs. I mean, this is a massive, massive opportunity. The new technology that, oh, what is going on here? We've got, okay, let me do this. Let's do one second, do that, okay. Do this, reload. Okay, so everybody focuses on the fact that AI has a potential of taking jobs from people, right? Reducing jobs and replacing human beings. But the reality is that the first level effect that AI has is by dramatically increasing productivity, dramatically increasing the productivity of labor. So whatever labor there is, its productivity increases. And that can have profound impacts on GDP, on wealth, and of course, that's just taking into account existing jobs that we can imagine and we can figure out, at least in theory, how to replace with AI. But if we replace them with AI, we immediately get a boost of productivity. Boost of productivity means a boost of wealth. Boost of wealth means a boost of quality and standard of living, right? Now, people will jump up and say, but wait, what about all the jobs that are lost? But that is the fallacy that always comes around when new technology is adopted. Not only jobs in total not lost, jobs almost always, more jobs are actually created. I mean, I find it fascinating that today in the world, if you look globally, there are more jobs than ever before. There are more jobs in America today than ever before, in spite of all the automation, all the computerization, all the panic and hysteria about jobs being lost by Luddites every decade or two. And yet we have more and more and more jobs. They are different jobs. Many, many jobs were destroyed and are being destroyed every single day. I mean, the easiest graspable statistic here is that we produce in the United States a lot more food than we ever have. And yet the number of people working in farming is about 1% versus 100 years ago when the number of people working in farming was close to 100%, 90%, 80%, 70%, right? 200 years ago it was close to 100. Maybe 100 years ago it was closer to 80. But a significant number of Americans were working in farming. The same is true in people say, oh, there are no manufacturing jobs. Yeah, there are no manufacturing jobs. You know why? Because people are not working in manufacturing anymore. manufacturing now is done by robots. It's done by computerized. Fewer people produce more cars, more finished goods. So AI is going to do the same thing. And of course, a lot of the lower end jobs, the unskilled labor, the labor that you can't imagine programming or adopting some of these new jobs that would be created by AI in terms of tech. Although more and more people can program with AI. Why? Because AI can fix your mistakes. Things like that happen. But what happens to very low-end jobs who can't do any of that? Well, they now service us, provide services to people who are a lot richer, who can afford to pay for, I don't know, manicures and pedicures, massages, and who knows what will demand in the future in terms of personal services. So AI is going to be a massive job creator. Now we've got a demographic issue, we'll get to that in a second, where the population is going to start to decline. But AI is going to be a massive job creator. AI is going to make the jobs far more efficient, productive. It is going to take a lot of jobs from people. So, every one of you should think about, is my job susceptible to be taken over by AI? And if it is, then you need to think about how to specialize in a way where you can work with AI to make it better, or you can switch jobs to something that is not going to be replaceable by AI. It's going to take longer than one expects, but it will happen. A lot of jobs will go away. Our jobs as entrepreneurs of our own lives is to figure out what jobs we can do that AI won't be able to, and to start shifting and to start moving into those kind of jobs. All right, so we'll keep returning to the AI story because it's everywhere, and people are going to be panicking and talking about it nonstop. People like Elon Musk are telling us that AI is going to destroy the world. So this is a constant kind of thing. So talking about destroying the world, I came across an article in The Guardian, a very left-wing newspaper in England. But it's got good news. It actually says, the article says, the long-feared population bomb may not go off. Oh my God. It turns out that the Club of Rome that started the panic over environmental issues and overpopulation, and we're all going to die very, very soon. The Club of Rome has just commissioned a report, a study, and that study finds that the world population will probably reach a high of 8.8 billion before the middle of the century, and then decline rapidly. It seems like the real problem that we're going to face in the future is too few people, not too many people. And that the peak is going to come much earlier than people expected. They still warn against pollution and climate change and all the other stuff. But I think now we can say with assuredness, when the the population explosion, the fear population bomb is gone, even the Club of Rome, the originators of all of this panic in the 1970s, have now come to the conclusion it ain't happening. Now, we've been saying it's not a problem forever. A lot of people have been saying it's not a problem forever. It's nice to see that the originators of the actual problem are finally recognizing that reality. All right, and I'm going fast here, so all right, because I see there are a lot of questions and our time got compressed by the fact that I didn't get started on time. Let's see, China. We're going to keep track of China on the show, on the Chinese economy on the show. I think, again, there are a lot of doomsdayers, a lot of fear mongering, a lot of fear generally. That China as an authoritarian state is going to grow. It's going to have this massive economy. It's going to be richer than America. It's going to have a better military because they're going to have all this money because they're so rich, and they're going to invest it in the military, and they're going to grow so fast. And I want to document kind of the fact that authoritarian regimes don't ultimately do certainly not totalitarian regimes, don't ultimately do well economically. And to the extent that China does economically, it'll be because they free up their economy, which will mean they're less totalitarian than we expect. So the latest number of stories that have come out. One is everybody remember the Belt and Road Initiative. That again, everybody was panicked. The idea was the Chinese were building these roads and train lines through Central Asia and also shipping routes along the Pacific and Indian Ocean, in Africa, Sri Lanka. And ultimately, the idea was that China would dominate trade into Europe by land through these rails and these highways. And in doing that, they were building ports and building highways and investing in local economies, but by providing debt and by helping governments facilitate all this. And everybody's afraid, oh, China's going to take over the world by getting everybody indebted to it. Well, it's turned out that the Belt and Road Initiative is kind of floundering. It's in deep, deep trouble. The Chinese have funded a lot of projects all over the world that are not particularly economically viable. They're not viable for the host countries. They're not viable for the Chinese. And indeed, it appears that China has poured into these different projects over the last 20 or so years, over the last, I'd say, 10 years. They poured into it, 128 bailouts, where they've had to bail out companies, bail out governments, to the tune of $250 billion. Now, $250 billion for the United States in terms of bailing out countries doesn't seem like that big of an amount, because when we do bailouts, we do trillion-dollar bailouts. We do it right. We do it big. But the Chinese economy is not as big as ours. Chinese people are poor as compared to us. And yet the Chinese are having to bail out all of these projects all over these places. Now, some people say that allows them to take ownership. It doesn't work exactly like that. There's a huge backlash. They're not taking ownership of a lot of it. It's just more debt for the Chinese, and the Chinese are wallowing in debt over the Belt and Road initiatives. Things are not going as well as everybody else thought they would go. In addition, if you look at Chinese cities are buried in debt. Particularly during COVID, but really leading up to COVID, Chinese cities were funding real estate. They were doing all kinds of stimulus projects to show that GDP was high, and because government spending is counted in GDP, and to meet their quotas vis-a-vis the central government. Well, during COVID, they started spending even more in order to keep the economies afloat. And of course, for them, COVID is an economic phenomenon because of zero COVID policies. That lasted from 2020 until last year, until 2022, right? So it lasted almost 3 years. They've been pouring gazillions of dollars into all kinds of projects, stimulus, keeping the economy afloat somehow by taking on debt and by funding unproductive projects. It's going to take years, maybe decades, for this debt to be paid off. This debt is in the trillions of dollars, or at least significantly over a trillion. I mean, just Guangdong, China's biggest province, is spending $1.2 trillion on 1,500 different projects in 2023. That is the province is spending it, right? So we're talking about massive amounts of money being spent on infrastructure and other things that, at the end of the day, are not going to pay them back. But this is what central governments do. This is what bureaucracies do. They're very good at spending. As long as they can borrow money, they'll spend, but you have to pay the piper. The real estate market and real estate companies in China are already feeling that, and I suspect we will see a general slowdown in the Chinese economy over time. All right, I see a ton of Super Chat questions, so I'm going to do these. I also have 2 from yesterday that I have to cover quickly, so let me cover those and also catch up to all these other Super Chat questions. Thank you, everybody. You guys are being very generous today. Okay, clocks. This is from yesterday. I suspect you're right that people will always think in binaries. The way to this is binaries too, so Republican, Democrat. The way to win is by getting objectivism to become one of those binaries, most likely through taking over the Republican Party over the next 100 years. No, 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 no. You see, this is the problem. The Republican-Democrat binary is the least important of all the binaries. That is the only way for us to take over the Republican Party is to get people to stop thinking in binaries. Because as long as they think in binaries, they won't accept reason as we understand it. They won't accept egoism as we understand it. And they won't accept capitalism as we understand it. So maybe they'll accept, so they won't accept us taking over the Republican Party. They'll reject the Republican Party and choose a different binary, a different alternative to the Democrats. If we want to change the world, we have to get people thinking rationally. Thinking rationally is not thinking in binaries. All right, Michael asked yesterday, do you see a dramatic increase in wages over the next few decades? Well, I mean, there's real potential for that. I see a real potential for dramatic increases in wages generated by things like AI, generated by big advancement in technology, and I think AI might be that big advancement. The problem is that you've got a drag on wages from government spending, government regulations, government controls, government limitations on entrepreneurs. So what is the net effect of those two forces? Hard to tell, but I fear that it is negative, that is not beneficial to wages. All right, Wes for $50 says, obviously Yaron was replaced by an AI, but doesn't have his voice down right. That's the only rational explanation. I think that's right. And it's why I'm pro AI, because I am AI. So actually, I think I'm NI. I'm natural intelligence, not artificial intelligence. You could argue, yeah, anyway, but yeah. Thanks, Wes. Really appreciate it. Adam says, catching up on my live shows, but wanted to contribute to Sunday's show on living a moral life in an irrational world. Well, you kind of contributed. You got me thinking about that, Adam. So thank you for getting me thinking in that direction in our one-on-one, and that got me at least to do that show. And there's a lot more that can be said about that topic, and we will in the future. All right. KFAX says, did you see Alex Epstein's tweet regarding GPT-4? GPT-3 guardrails suppressed pro-fossil fuel responses, for example, asking for pro-FF arguments, which got attention in December. Now GPT-4 has no such bias. Yes, I noticed that. So GPT-4 is better. Writing about biases on AI actually helps reduce the bias, because the AI, in a sense, notices it and can learn from it. And if you link to the alternative explanations, that is always helpful and beneficial for the. So the more good stuff we write, the more good stuff we produce, the more good stuff we reference, the more good stuff we share, the more good stuff AI picks up, the better AI will be at presenting our ideas. Another reason to share Alex's stuff, share my stuff, share Arrow White stuff, share Iron Man videos, share Leonard Peacock videos, share. Get it out there into the public space so the GPT can pick it up and include it, right, in the answers that it gives. Right? All right, Andrew asks, an abysmal view of man is required to respond to AI with fear that what men will do with it is commit mass murder. But many would claim that it is historically accurate, using new technology for war. What do you say? Yeah, I mean, people will use new technology for war. But look, we haven't used nuclear weapons again since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We saw the devastating power. We know what can actually happen and how bad it can get. So we stopped using them. We will use AI. I believe that in the future, robots will fight wars. But let's also hope that as this kind of technology advances, it helps actually, and I think GPT has the potential to do this, it helps actually liberate people all over the world, thus reducing the prevalence of war. So I think technology actually reduces war. We haven't had many wars in the last 80 years. Look at what's happening in Russia now. That's a warning sign. We didn't have wars during the capitalist period, relative capitalist period of the 19th century. So what we mean is to embrace more freedom. That is our guarantee not to use devastating technologies in war. But the other part of this is hopefully the good guys will have better technology and thus be able to use it to win wars faster and with fewer casualties. Wes says AI will increase productivity, which should make things cheaper for everyone. Yes. Also, by allowing us to be more productive, we can probably work less hours, give us more time to be productive in other areas of our life. Yes, and that will create jobs for people to satisfy those needs. I like to use the pedicure manicure example. I mean, 30 years ago, it was very rare to see a shop doing pedicures and manicures. It was something that some people did, you know, relatively wealthy, not that often. Today, pedicure and manicure is at every strip mall, at least in California. Every strip mall has one. The thousands of them, they're everywhere, and it's not a big deal to get a pedicure or manicure. It's something everybody does, or a lot of people do. So that is the kind of jobs that are, you know, created, if you will, by the fact that we become wealthy. All right, Mike says, my daughter-in-law is going to Puerto Rico in April to help evacuate all the animals and close the zoo because the animals are suffering poor conditions. You want to give us a PR status in a future show? Sure. I mean, generally PR, nothing much is changing. It's very inefficient, very unproductive, and it's not going anywhere near its real potential. So I'm not surprised the zoo is run down. A lot of Puerto Rico is still run down. There's a lot of work to do in Puerto Rico. But the work to be done is to liberate it and to free it up, like most other places. Not your average algorithm. Power is not controlling other people. Power is controlling yourself. Trying to control other people is the first sign that you are entirely out of control. Controlling others is what weak people think power looks like. Yeah, but that's what, you know, a lot of successful power lusters, look at our politicians, look at Putin, look at Xi in China. That's the conception of power they have, and that's the conception of power they implement. Remember, there are two forms of power. There's power over, in a sense, reality, which is what a scientist, an engineer, a productive businessman has. And there is power, there's economic power that comes from accumulating wealth through trade. And then there is political power, and political power is power over other people. Political power is power of a gun, of a fist, of physical force. And that's the power we should reject. Okay, Clark says, is it immoral to own Section 8 housing apartments? In a free society, obviously, they wouldn't exist. But at the moment, the government pays me every month, guaranteed, and I don't have to pay for maintenance on the building. Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as immoral to do it. A lot of things wouldn't exist in a free market, in a capitalist market. So no, I mean, you're not. You know, this is money that would be paid out anyway. You're not increasing, I don't think, by using this Section 8. You're not increasing it beyond what it would be used otherwise. So no, I would not consider it as immoral. All right, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Colin asks, the How to Live a Moral Life in an Irrational World episode from the weekend was excellent. Amazing life advice with the value of membership alone. Thank you. Thanks, Colin. I mean, it really, all these compliments about that show really suggest that you guys miss the Yaron Rules for Life shows, which I used to do. You miss that kind of positive application to your own life, advice for living your own life. So I don't know, maybe I should just have one of those, even if it's repetitive to what I did last year, just to keep it top of mind in your own mind. And of course, if anybody wants to sponsor one of those shows, feel free to sponsor a show like that. But yes, I do. It does seem to me that there's a real eagerness and desire for shows like the Rules for Life. So I'll try to do more of those. Yaron, did you hear about the Restrict Act? It is intensely authoritarian to outlaw VPNs. Think it will pass. Oh, they can outlaw VPNs? God, then they become like China. They become like China. That would be horrible. I hope it doesn't pass. I hope it doesn't pass. But no, I had not heard of that. I heard of the executive order that Biden just signed that restricts the ability to use certain types of listening devices, commercial, I guess, listening devices. But I think that's something different. Robert says, for grace under pressure. I appreciate that. Thank you. Equal to reality, new mic money. As I said, I just need to figure out why this computer will not connect to the mic I already have, which worked fine. Roland, old mic money. Thank you, Roland. Jacob with COVID again. Australian TGA doc released, submitted January 2021 of Pfizer data released by FOIA. No info spike, degrade circulation. Potential autoimmune disease noted. No study. Lipid nano. Well, I'll have to. I don't know what you expect of me. I'd have to look and find what it is and then comment on it. All right. Submitted in January 2021. Come on, guys. Michael, I had a professor challenge me that saying free will is self-evident because we see it, like saying the earth is flat is self-evident because we see it. What is wrong with this analogy? Well, first of all, you don't see the earth is flat. It doesn't take much, even through vision. This is how the Greeks understood the world was not flat. You can see the horizon. You can see a ship going over the horizon, and you can tell that the earth is not flat just by pretty simply. There are illusions, but your senses give you what exists out there. Indeed, for all intents and purposes, your little piece of the earth is flat. What you introspect and what you see is true. Now, as you gain knowledge about the world, you expand the context of what you're seeing. You expand the understanding. But this is the difference. Free will stands at the base of all knowledge. That is, there is no thinking without free will. There is no reason without free will. There is no the professor challenging free will without free will. In order to refute the idea of free will, one has to refute free will. One has to use free will. So its very existence, A, is observable, and B, once it isn't there, there's just if there's no free will, then there's no knowledge, and there's no reason, and there's no thinking, and there's no correcting, because it just is what it is. It's probably a better way to phrase my answer for that. I highly recommend asking me that question, Michael, for when we have Greg Salamiri on the show, or Onkar, one of the philosophers. NI Money, thanks for making sense. Thanks, Olin. Appreciate it. Doc Fox says, do you know of the academic agent, Neema Parvini? He's an intellectual linchpin for the right, making a video countering his arguments would sway his less extreme. Let me copy paste this. His book is Populist Delusion. Yeah, that could be interesting. I'm looking for videos and stuff like that to do. So thank you for sending that. I'll look him up. I do not know him right now. Apollo says, tips to people on how to keep up with modern tech. Well, it depends what you mean by how to keep up with modern tech. I mean, the first thing is to be curious, be engaged. When ChatGPT comes out, and you can download it, you can play around with it. But look, the point of, and it depends on how old you are, and if you're doing this in order to figure out career-wise, if you're doing it for fun. But just be engaged. Just read up about it, test it, try it, download it. Think about it. Think about its implication for your own career and your own job. But read. There's no, if you're 25, then read. and experiment and try, right? Don't let technology pass you over. I mean, I'm almost 62, and I can't afford to let technology pass me over. Although there's some technologies I obviously don't go near, but don't let it go over you. Read about it, and then the main thing is test it, try it, explore, experiment, engage in it, right? The future is yours. You're 25. The future is technology. You better be, whatever your profession is, whatever you're going to do in the future for you is technology. So invest some time in understanding it, in embracing it, in making it a part of you. So, and the best way to do that is to use it, and see how it applies. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, I apologize for the tech problems. By the time, well, the next show is while I'm on the road, so that's a whole different set of equipment, whole different set of problems. But I will probably do a show tomorrow from Medellin in Colombia, and I'll let you know how that goes. Let's see, what else do I need to update you? Yes, and by the time I get back home, I will have fixed this. I might be able to fix this. Somebody said reboot the system, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I might be able to fix this in the next few minutes by doing that. All right, thanks everybody. I will see you all in tomorrow from Colombia. Thanks for being patient with me. I really